Good morning. Good morning, Kaido. How are you doing? Might just be the two of us today. Just having a chill coffee chat. Let me double check if we have any anonymous questions. No, seem to be good. Yeah, doing good too, man. Doing good too. Just switch this up as well. Yeah, it's pretty quiet, but that's all right. Maybe some more people will drop in over the next couple of minutes. Yeah, but yeah, I've been doing good. I've been slowly but surely coming to the end of the solo challenge, right? Like the London Underground solo challenge that we're currently doing for Beyondextent. So I've been having a lot of fun with that, man. Just not caring about like game restrictions and just having fun with modeling and texturing on this one. It's really nice. There's a lot of other stuff going on too in the background that I'm working on. Also got like a mentorship today, so it's gonna be pretty busy. It's gonna be an okay Sunday. Yeah, I've been having fun, man. Yours is looking pretty slick. Thanks, buddy. It's just been... Oh man, I don't know, there's such a satisfaction to just picking stuff up from textures.com, not caring about the size, just quickly cleaning it up in like Photoshop or whatever, and then just slapping it into your scene. Like, I don't know, it feels so good to do that, because normally it's always like, oh my god, I need to make sure that this is like 124 by like 1K by 1K or like 2K by 1K or something, but now it's just like, I don't care about the size, just throw it into the scene, unwrap it, slap it on the wall, it's done. Hey Talisa, how are you doing? Welcome to the chat. Yeah, it's just fun to not have to care about like the game restrictions all too much. There is some stuff that I'm still doing towards like game related, like more towards like game environments, right? So like I'm building a trim sheet for cables, so I can reuse that on like the next project. But yeah, other than that, it's just pretty fun to just throw stuff around. How are you doing, Talisa? I hope you have a good weekend. Let me just double check the questions. Yeah, we got 4 good questions today. Gonna be interesting. Hey Scott! Welcome to the stream, buddy. Glad you could make it. Alright. I think we should be just good to go, right? I'm just gonna dive straight into the first question. So the first question is from Dylan, and he asked, what are some first weeks, months tips that a junior should keep in mind when starting their industry job to get the most out of the experience and to make the best impression? Where did I mention this before? I think in a couple of AMAs and also in a podcast. The thing that I highly recommend is don't be afraid to just ask questions. Like asking questions is gonna get you like a lot of connections. It's gonna just help you grow like really quick. So as soon as you're hitting a wall, I mean, just start asking questions. Like, it took me a while to get over that hump, but once I started doing it, I learned so much. Like, it was unbelievable, like how much you pick up from just talking to other people and like asking questions. Yeah. I mean, first weeks, months tips that a junior should keep in mind. That's probably the big one, honestly. Just don't be afraid to ask questions. That's where I would start. I mean, we can go to like the typical things, right? Like treat other people with respect. I mean, this sounds like such a weird thing to say, but it's just always be polite. Like always respect people's time. That's why you drive the balance between like asking too many questions and also yeah, asking the good questions basically, right? Because you don't want to be a person that's just constantly asking questions without ever doing any of the research yourself. You do have to put your time into it as well. At least that's what I think. People can be on that spectrum, right? Like there are people who ask like questions more directly instead of like trying to search for it more, which works. But then oftentimes, in my opinion, I'm just like, well, you could have just looked this up on Google for some of the questions, right? So start there. Another tip for juniors just starting in the industry: don't do overtime. This does depend on the. I mean, this is a tricky one, right? Because I'm saying this with like a European vision in mind, where I mean that sounds so grand, like my European vision, but like my European perspective on that is that people are gonna see that you're gonna be doing overtime or you're gonna do longer hours, and usually what I'll do in like a manager position, I will talk to you about that, and I will say like, look, hey, you've been here for 9 hours already, like, and you've been doing this consistently for like over the week. Like, don't you think it's time to go home? Like, just grab an early night, and that's totally fine. There are some moments, of course, when, let's say, you get hired in like the most hectic part of the production, and everyone is pulling their weight. Once you're properly onboarded and you know what you do, make sure that you become a part of that, so that you're not just like, oh, I'm not gonna do like I'm not gonna pull my weight, right? But also don't overdo it. Like don't go like crazy, like pulling like extra 4 hours each day or something, because that's gonna destroy you. Hey Bikes, welcome to the chat, and welcome everyone else. I just want to say this as a reminder, like any of the topics here, like feel free to just throw in like any questions or any additional points that you think could be interesting to talk about. I would love to discuss them together with you. So the first question is talking about what are some of the tips that you can give a junior when starting their first job in the industry. So we went through like asking questions, and now I was talking about like not doing overtime. What is another good one? I don't know. Get to know people. I think it's a good one. Just take often coffee breaks ever so often. Get chatting with people. Like that's probably where you make the best connections. It's when you're grabbing coffee. Yeah, also, what's the other thing that I was gonna bring up? Take your time in the beginning. That's really important. And I keep saying this because I never did that myself, but like when you join the industry, they they know that you're a junior. They know that you have a lot to learn. So take your time to properly onboard and don't feel this pressure of like, oh, I need to perform constantly. Read through the art Bible, read through the documentation. Take your time to just get familiar with like all the tools, the engine, and like the pipeline that they use. Because the more you do that in the beginning, the better you're gonna be off when the stress is gonna come along, when there's gonna be a deadline or like a milestone that you have to hit, right? Because you don't want to be figuring out stuff in a like during a milestone, like a big deadline. So the more you do that stuff beforehand, the better you're gonna be prepared for those tricky situations like deadlines or milestones. I think generally that's it though. For, I mean, the stuff that I can come up with. It will be interesting to hear like other people's perspectives on it too. Because, yeah. It could be, yeah, there could be some interesting stuff coming from like the American audience as well. Oh great, my Notion just shut itself down. Oh, here we go. Alright, cool. Let's head over to the next question then. We got one from Louis Mesquita, and he asked, do you usually get approached by recruiters with job offers in other companies, even with your senior Ubisoft role written on your LinkedIn? Yeah, I would say I've disabled like being open for applications, right? That's the thing that you can do on LinkedIn. To just let recruiters know that you're open. But I still get like the occasional message, like on ArtStation or LinkedIn or like through email. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like even if you're working in the industry, they never know if you might be looking for like another job, right? So it never hurts to just reach out and just see if you change your mind compared to the last time that they sent out. I would imagine that if I were to like publicly say that I'm available for a job, that, I mean, with the current outlook of the industry, like how many senior jobs there are available, that companies would start reaching out more and more. That's what I feel. Because the higher you go, or like the higher in seniority you go, like the less big the pool of applicants becomes, right? So that's definitely one advantage of being in the industry for like a while. It becomes easier and easier just to switch roles if you're interested. Yeah, I mean, it's been a while since I lived in the UK, and I still have like UK recruiters that I talked to like in the beginning of my career, and they still, like every couple of months, they send me like a message like, hey, are you still looking for a job? So yeah, it's been pretty interesting to see that. But I think this is more in relationship to just the overall recruitment process in general, right? Because in the beginning, it's more about what you put in and like where you apply. But I think after a while, like the tables, they just flip around, or like it starts becoming more people reaching out to you instead of you reaching out to them. I mean, it doesn't hurt if you're really looking for that specific company to just still send them like an application, right? Because I also assume that not every studio has like a recruitment manager or something like that, where they reach out to you personally. But yeah, it's been interesting to see. Also, just in terms of frequency, it's not that I'm getting flooded, right? I don't want to sound that once you're in the industry that you're gonna get flooded by applications. I get, what would I say, like 1 every 2 weeks or something. And that also has to do with like not showing up as available for a new job and all that. But and most of them are like to zero interest to me. Like I would never make that switch. Like either they sound like quite obscure, right? You know how what is it, like recruiters, they send you like a message and it's like, oh, it's for this company and they're kind of working on a game like this, but they don't want to state the facts. I don't know. I've always hated that, to be honest. I know why they do it, but it's like, look, if you're really interested, just give me the straight facts, right? Hey Ben, welcome to the stream. But yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna complain. Like, it's still nice to get like an occasional message. But yeah, it's also not that I'm just getting flooded and that everything goes directly into spam, right? Because some people might have this weird, I don't know, weird perception that once you're in the industry that you might get flooded with like new applications and it's easy, or that it's hard to choose between them. But I mean, in my case, that's not happening. I'm also not, if we're gonna be honest, I'm also not a, what do you call it, like typical rock star artist, right? Like my art doesn't really isn't really like the top of the bunch, like the 1%, if you want to call it that. And that is not shooting myself down, right? That's just like being honest about like my skill level and like my set. I think I'm more generalist. Like I also like to dare you, Tim, you're well, look, that might be true. That might be true. How cringy as that is, but no, sometimes you just have to be honest, right? Like my work is not like the top of the pile if you look at environment artists on ArtStation. That's just the truth. And I don't mind. I don't mind saying that. And I feel comfortable in just not being there either. Because I like a bunch of stuff. Like I like running Beyondextent. I like I don't know, talking to people, like mentoring people. And if you start thinking about it in that way, then the time that I put into other stuff than art, like those kick-ass artists, they're just gonna put into art the entire time. So it makes sense that they're better. Fucking lies. Look, I appreciate it, but that's the way that I see it. But yeah, that's a good question, Louis. Thank you for the question. Let's dive into the next one then, from Beyondextent. Did you look into Omniverse and what Nvidia is doing with it? The whole ecosystem could be a great opportunity for collaboration on, for example, the team challenges. I didn't look into it until yesterday because I thought it was interesting that you mentioned it for the challenges, because I'm doing some background research on how we can improve it. It looks interesting, the way that you can collaborate, but the thing is, the issue that we're currently running into with the challenges, well, like, I mean, it's not really issues. Well, maybe both ways. But it's like our inexperience as purely artists in organizing these challenges is just setting up like the server and like the connectivity between people. So all that you see in Omniverse is probably all stuff that you can do in Unreal as well, but it's just setting it up in such a way that the connectivity is like spotless. That's where we currently have issues. I mean, people that took part in the last one, they probably noticed that, right? Where the GitHub solution that we were working with was quite slow. And if we want to move to something else, something better, we need to look into like renting servers from AWS or some other solutions, right? So that's the thing we're currently looking into with the team challenges specifically. But come back to your question though, like the Omniverse and what Nvidia is doing with it looks pretty interesting from the stuff that I saw yesterday. Because basically I was looking at a video where people, like you had one person working in Maya, you had one person working in Substance, and then one person working in Unreal itself. Not Unreal, Omniverse. And then you could see the person working in Omniverse doing his changes. But then also like a live connection to Maya and Substance. So you could see like materials change on the fly, you could see assets change on the fly, like you could see these adjustments happening in real time, which is pretty interesting. I mean, that's the thing that I'm currently thinking about, right? Like how real time is that stuff? Because if it's real time, that would be pretty sweet. Because from what I can tell from other solutions, if you're working with external packages like Maya or Substance, like you still need to save it, right? It's not like this real-time connection thing. This might also depend on what kind of assets that you're working with, right? Like if I'm imagining like a really heavy Substance Designer file, for example. I highly doubt that that is going to update in real time. I would be curious to see that. Not gonna lie, that sounds disastrous. Well, it depends on how they set it up, right? Because if it is really fluid in that way, it could be really interesting. But yeah, that's the thing with the whole networking layer surrounding it, right? And like, how does that work with source control? And everyone needs to know what they're doing, because with a challenge like this, I mean, we're going back to the challenges now, but like with these challenges, you have less experienced people in there too that are handling source control for the first time, and they might not know about the things that you have to do with source control, which makes it really tricky, right? But yeah, I mean, just in terms of like the pipeline, and if you can collaborate real time, that would be freaking awesome. I would love that. So yeah, Piotr, thanks for the suggestion. I'm gonna look more into it. It's also, for the team challenges, we also have to think about how applicable a game engine is, right? And Omniverse at the moment is not really used widely. So I don't even know if you can get access to it. I'm not sure about that. But if we can compare it to like Unity or Unreal Engine, then at that moment it doesn't really make sense to have like teams collaborate in Omniverse to then work in like other game engines anyway. At least that's what I think about it. Because, yeah. So what challenged on our art, but the community builders are challenged on the technical side? Yeah. It's been, even with the more simple solution that we have right now, like the GitHub solution, that was also like a really technical challenge for us in the background. But what we're currently looking into, like setting up servers with AWS and then having maybe Perforce, we're reaching out to Perforce for quotes and like talking to some of their experts at the moment. Honestly, that is just a whole new layer. That is something where we have to hand out control over that stuff because we can't set up the technical side anymore. But it's something we need to do. If we want to scale these team challenges further, we need to make them trustworthy, right? Like we need to have a standardized way of working with them where we can just scale them up going forward. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, I was gonna talk about that, Cairo. So let's add another one for later. Ubi's mixer software for Blender looks promising. Because I think this ties in well with the Omniverse that we were talking about. First, let's talk about Unreal Engine a bit more, because it basically has the same functionality. you can do like a multi-person, what is it, like collaboration in like the same scene if you set it up via a VPN so that you can fake everyone's connection to be on like the same network. So you're basically faking like a LAN server at that moment, which is something that could be really interesting for us too, so that you can see how other people are like updating stuff in the scene. But I mean, Scott basically summed it up, right? Like could be disastrous as well, and could just add like a whole layer of complexity that just isn't worth like the technical hassle that might ensue. Ubisoft mixers for Blender, how would you see that used in production realistically? Would you find it frustrating trying to work around another artist in real time? I mean, it's an interesting thought, because we kind of do that all the time anyway. But the way that we do it, building open world games, is that we do it in the game engine and not in Blender. So, in my position at the moment, I don't really see any... How would I say it? Like, I've never run into an encounter where I had to be with another artist on the same Blender file. Or like the same source file in this case, right? It doesn't really matter if it's Blender or Max or Maya in this case. So, yeah, I mean, it could be interesting where instead of like having like smaller separated source files, there is like one big source file that is, I don't know, based on thematic or whatever, or based on like a region from the game, or based on like this section of the game, and that all the artists like collaborate in that while they're like building on their assets, so that you can see other people working on their assets as well. That could be cool, because then you see real-time updates, like the team is more connected, and you can also give better feedback to each other. That could be interesting, honestly. But on the flip side, imagine if you're a junior artist and you're joining a studio and you have to model in Blender for the first time, and you have like all these experienced artists just floating around in the same scene as you. Oh god. Talk about like another layer of just stress added onto you. Man, that would be so stressful, thinking back at my junior position. And just not having, basically not having the room to like experiment, right? Oh god. Just a dread sinking in. I mean, some people would be good with that, I guess. But yeah, coming back to your question though, like, would you find it frustrating trying to work around other artists in real time? That's honestly what we're doing in the game engine all the time. Like, we need to communicate constantly with each other and say like, oh, I want to work on like this section. I see that you have it checked out. Like, how long are you going to be working on that? So yeah, I mean, I want to test it out, honestly. I want to give it a try and see how far you can push it before it breaks. So that, yeah, like the stuff that I'm thinking about now, like how does it deal with, like, say we have this one model in the scene and we're both pulling vertices on the same model. It probably can't do that, right? Because it needs to, I don't know. We need to give it a try. I'm curious. I want to break that. Hey, good job hydrating. Yeah, I'm drinking coffee. Thanks, Ben. Beyondextent challenge sponsored by NordVPN. God damn it. Who knows? Maybe in the future. But yeah, it's been interesting just thinking about like the options and just trying to make it scalable for the future. I think it's probably the biggest challenge that I have had up until this point with Beyondextent, just in general. I mean, it's not only just me, right? Like, the entire team is sort of pitching in and sharing their thoughts about it. But yeah, I mean, there's so much, because normally what happens is when I set something up, like the AMAs or like the solo challenges, like it's very compartmentalized. Like you can have one person working on it and like completely own it. But then with stuff like this, you can't really do that, right? Because there's so many different aspects. And yeah, honestly, it's been a fun one to experiment with and to like look at where we go in the future. And hopefully we can get it sorted in like 2 months. It's gonna be an interesting one. Oi, Zex! Welcome to the chat. How are you doing? You think it locks the object for your editing? It would have to. Yeah, I think so too, right? It would need to. Because if it wouldn't do that, that would be crazy. Imagine just fighting over vertices. Yeah. I want to give that mixer software for Blender a try. How would I... Yeah, just to come back to that question, how would I see it being used in production realistically? Yeah, it's probably like I said, right? Like if you have like a thematic or like a zone specific Blender file where just to give an example, right? If you imagine Far Cry 5 and then there's like the Jacob region or whatever the names are called, like imagine just a Blender file for all the assets that are going to be within that region. It's going to be huge, that Blender file. But that would make it really interesting. That would make it interesting in the way that you collaborate. Because it's so much more visual and so much more interactive, where you can just see changes on the fly. That would be cool. Yeah, I wonder how they're gonna implement that, or like what the future of that's gonna be. Because I mean, even from my perspective, right? Like working within Ubisoft, I never heard about that tool. I'm not up to date with that, so I have no idea what their plans are. Doing fine, rendering some shots of sculpts for ArtStation. Oh yeah, nice. That's awesome. And then we have our last question. Right when my Notion just crashed again. Give me a sec. Oh yeah, Zex, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. Just chilling on the chat. It's been a while. It feels like it's been a while, but it's only been 2 weeks since we've done one of these. We had a special edition last week. But it's been fun. It's been fun. Probably gonna do a little bit of more... I don't know. Like, I want to finish the scene that I was working on today, I think. I hope. Then that would be good. And then maybe post that somewhere. I'm not sure yet. That would be good. Last question from Cairo. What do you think of artworks which have been made using the techniques for creation and presentation from a tutorial? The art is not a one-on-one copy, but it has very clearly been made in the style of the tutorial. Yeah, we were talking about this. Well, like some people were talking about like this example on the community Discord. And it was pretty interesting to see because even though it was like a completely different prop, it was presented in the same style from the tutorial. So it's a pretty interesting case where they clearly did something that they wanted to make themselves, but they presented it in the same way that the tutorial was doing it. Some other examples brought up here by Cairo are just range material balls. From a hiring perspective, would you prefer if you can't tell which tutorial it was inspired by, and if the tutorial puts their own spin on the presentation? So first of all, what do I think of artworks that have been made using the techniques for creation and presentation from a tutorial? Yeah, I think it's completely fine, like, as long as it's not like a one-to-one copy of the same thing, right? Because that's the thing, like, I've had a couple of interviews with people that wanted to interview at our studio, and you could tell that for some of them, they were clearly following a tutorial, and then other people were clearly giving it their own spin too, like you just mentioned, Cairo. I think the biggest point is that it's just so recognizable as having watched a specific tutorial instead of a unique spin. Yeah, and that's always the biggest point, right? Like, if you come into a interview and you have a tutorial on your portfolio, that is going to pull my attention. And I'm going to be asking what you learned from that tutorial and how you applied it in the other scenes. And if you didn't, then that's going to throw up like some questions for me personally. There have been some portfolios that I've seen where they clearly remade the tutorial, posted it on their portfolio, and then took all those lessons and put it in like the next thing that they made. And then I usually ask the question, like, why keep that tutorial on there? Right? Because you're just following stuff step by step. I mean, you're not showcasing like any, and this is like a one-to-one recreation, right? So at that point, you're not really showing off that you took it all on board and did your own thing with it. You're just following steps. I mean, everyone can do that, but it's about how you take in that information and make it truly yours. That's where the difference is. Because if we're talking about art in general, like, all art is like a distillation of just like a bunch of inspirations that you have, just made new by how you combine them together. So that's the same thing that applies for these tutorials as well. Like, you can, if we make the comparison to art again, like, you can replicate like a painting, right? And you might pick up like some techniques about that, but if you're just replicating all the time, it doesn't really make you like a unique artist, right? It's not gonna bring your own voice to the forefront. You're just gonna be replicating stuff all the time. But this is where this example becomes interesting, right? Because the presentation was a one-to-one copy, or almost a one-to-one copy. But then the prompt that they made and like the texturing, that was especially the prop was like uniquely theirs. The texturing, there's probably like a lot of overlap in how they did stuff, but you could still see that they infused it with their own ideas and then took like how you need to set up like all the detailed layers and then infuse that into their project. So that is 100% what I want to see. Like, I don't really care about the presentation of it, because presentation is, for an environment artist, it's important to show off your piece, but it has very little to do with your actual day-to-day job. Because the presentation is going to be handled, well, in the bigger studios, right? Let me make that clear. Whereas in the bigger studios, you're going to be relying on a lighting artist and like maybe like a realization team that is going to help you push like the visuals. So you're not in charge of any of the presentation itself. You're going to give them ideas. You're going to give them suggestions for sure, but it doesn't mean that you're going to be doing the setup. So yeah, from a hiring perspective, would you prefer if you can't tell which tutorial was inspired by? Yeah, probably. I would probably prefer that, and then just talk about it, right? Like, what were you inspired by? Because that's a normal conversation to have. Like, if we're talking about, like, like I said before, any artwork, you're gonna have your inspirations. So, inspirations aren't bad. It's just how you make them truly yours. That's the big thing. Yeah. I mean, it's such an interesting conversation, right? You are applying the knowledge you learned. Exactly, Ben. That's exactly what you're doing. Was so recognizable as having watched a specific tutorial instead of a unique spin. Yeah, that's always the thing where this comes down to, right? Like, you need to be able to give it your own spin. That's always the most important point. Because yeah, I mean, I've had people that come up with a portfolio, and like 90% of the portfolio is based on tutorials. Like, not even based, but like just recreations of a tutorial. And I'm just like, okay, this is cool and all, but like, show me some like a piece that is truly yours, where you took all those lessons that you learned in all those tutorials and make something yourself. Because as an artist, you still wanna have ownership, right? Ideally, you wanna have a blank slate, and you can just do your own thing as an artist. I mean, within given reason. Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. It's an interesting topic as well. Let me just quickly look at what people were discussing too, right? Because that would be interesting to see if we can pick out some other perspectives. Because Piotr mentions, I can see the purpose of both, copying one-to-one and having an alternate version. Yeah, that's basically what we mentioned before, right? So that it's fine if you want to have it on your portfolio, which doesn't really, in my opinion, it doesn't really hurt it that much, but it doesn't really add anything to your ArtStation portfolio on the other side either. It's more about like how you make it yourself, right? Gotta start somewhere, and if well executed, it will certainly grab an attention and create some traffic on your portfolio. Get likes, followers, and give that a boost. Oh, yeah, that's a dangerous road to go down towards. We'll just confuse in the chat. Jesus. We just got into holidays together, and you're already lost track of time. But welcome to the chat, man. Yeah, but Piotr was saying something about like get likes and followers to give your portfolio a boost. That is, yeah, like Scott, that's a really interesting point too. Like, if you follow a tutorial, you can definitely put that in your blog. That's probably like a better way to do it, honestly. Because following a tutorial is not something that's gonna wow like a recruiter, right? Or maybe a recruiter, but if you have like an artist looking at your portfolio, they're immediately, well, in like a large percent of the cases, they're gonna spot that tutorial straight away. And they're gonna be like, okay. Was it just you following a tutorial, or were you doing something else with that information afterwards? I just think that many juniors, this is from Piotr, by the way, in our chat. I think he brings up some interesting points. I just think that many juniors are looking too much into technical aspects and are losing perspective on something that is harder to teach, which is a design. Yeah. And then he mentions also something that it's way easier for a company to give you resources and documentation for the technical skills instead of the artistic skills. That is a really interesting point. But yeah, there's a degree to that, right? Because if you don't know all the technical skills, you need to overcome that hurdle to fully allow your artistic side to grow again. Because you can know a lot about like composition and like color usage and all that stuff, which is definitely a good point for him to bring that up, right? That is more important than the technical skills. But if you don't know how to set up lights in Unreal Engine, then you're completely fucked with that color knowledge anyway, because you can't do anything with that knowledge. So there needs to be a balance between the two things. And usually what I've seen, and what I've seen in myself as well, is that you have artists that go through like the technical aspects for like a long time. This is usually during uni. You learn all the technical skills, and then after a while you start realizing that you need to shore up your artistic skills again. And then this flipping of the axis happens, where you finally learn like all about like the technical skills, and now it's time to really make stuff that you think is good for your portfolio. And I mean, that's also like a journey unto itself, right? But yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point that they bring up though. But yeah, he just finishes off with just mentioning that it's probably easier to learn a pipeline than it is to teach a person those artistic values, which is true. Which is true. Yeah. I mean, yeah, this is just like an interesting point of view, right? There's definitely one thing that I want to call out again, is just like get likes and followers just with tutorials. You have to think about it in a brand kind of way. Like you can do this. You can get a lot of viewers to your portfolio, which overall helps to boost how visible you are in the industry, right? But if you're known for only doing tutorials, that's not gonna get you a job. So again, there's a dichotomy there, right? It's good to have those viewers, but you have to balance that with what you show off. Like you need to be pulling in the viewers with something that's uniquely yours and still technically sound, and that's probably going to give you the job. The technical side will be different from company to company too. I mean, obviously technical knowledge is super important, but if you have the base, you're lost too. Yeah, exactly. That's also a really good point, right? Because like when I was working at Frontier and then made the switch to Ubisoft, like from a technical, or like, yeah, I mean from a technical understanding, like I was basically starting from scratch again. I mean, not completely, right? Because I had like the knowledge of like 3D programs, but the engine was completely different. The pipeline was completely different. There were just so many differences within the two workflows that, yeah, you're definitely just changing it up again. And that might even happen between studios. It might also happen between projects within the studio too, right? So that's something that you need to be wary of too. Thanks for bringing that up, Will. That's a good point. Likes and followers are neat and a nice ego boost, but at the start you're probably not going to get headhunted anyway, so you have to apply at places. Followers and likes don't matter then. Yep, exactly. Because I think what is way better, if you're really thinking about like followers and likes, is doing articles. Doing articles is a way better way, because if a company takes the time to go to read through it, which, if we're gotta be honest, like they need to be really invested in getting you on for them to read like a complete article, but it shows that you're willing to share knowledge, and it shows that you're confident about sharing that knowledge too. And then if they read through a bit of the article and they kind of get this feeling that the knowledge that you're sharing is sound, it can have a beneficial effect to your application too. Plus, it helps the industry, so you get known for that, and that helps getting spread the word, right? And that gets you it's looking at this comparison between like you being known for like following tutorials, or you being known for like sharing knowledge and being confident about sharing that knowledge. There's like a massive difference between the two. Whereas one is completely useless for like the industry itself, and the other one is like really applicable, because that shows recruiters that you might be interested in doing the same thing on your job as well, where you might be able to set up workshops, or you want to be involved with like presentations yourself, right? So that's also like a real benefit. We missed a question from Cairo. Maybe a follow-up. If you spot a tutorial in a portfolio piece, would you even look at it to see how well it's executed? Yeah, I would. I would just have a look at it. But honestly, I wouldn't put too much weight on it. Like, I would be interested in how they execute it to maybe see where they like varied or like switched it up a little bit. So usually what happened before is that it's just like a really quick thing. Like, usually, weirdly enough, what happens is that the artist opens up their art station. This is talking about like in-house interviews, right? So you're getting a glimpse into that, where these are my personal experiences, right? Where they come in, they open their portfolio, they go to this tutorial that they made, they open it and they start explaining like how they approached it. But in the back of my mind, they haven't mentioned that it's from a tutorial yet in most cases. And it's somewhere hidden in the description so you can't see it. But I know that it's from a tutorial. So I'm just waiting for them to say that it's based on a tutorial. And if they don't, I will call them out. So, well, calling them out is such like a strong word, right? I'm just gonna be like, oh, okay, so I've seen this before, I think. Was this based on a tutorial from Daniel Tiger? And then it depends on their reaction. Like, if they're just like, yeah, this is from Daniel Tiger, and this is how I followed it, and this is how I improved upon it. That's cool. But if they're like, you can tell by their initial reaction, if they're like, oh shit, they know about tutorials, that's not a good sign, in my opinion. Because then I get this weird feeling that they're trying to sort of sneak their way through a interview, which is, I don't know, you gotta, yeah, like Will said, you gotta be honest about that stuff. Like, if it's right there in your face, I'm like, cool, this is a tutorial. This is nice that you follow tutorials. You show that you wanna improve your skills, right? But, man, yeah, it's weird that they don't mention it from the start. Like, it's not a good start. Or worse, it might get you the job that when in the job you're like, oh, where's the tutorial for this? Yeah, exactly. Do I have an art station? Yes, for sure. It's blocked, Will. It's blocked. You can't post links. Hold on. Because it's in the chat above. Let me just link it again. I know, I'm sorry. Thanks for wanting to help me out, Will. Yeah, we do have a Discord. That's you can access that through Patreon. I'll send the link again for that as well. Awesome. So let's have a look here, right? Did we miss anything? I always found these. Oh, okay. Leon, that's a good question. So how about when you find yourself at work as a junior and you reach a point where you think, I would need a tutorial right now? Look, as a junior, I mean, not even as a junior, right? Like, all seniorities use tutorials. Like, there's no way you're not to. Like, would I say day-to-day basis? Probably. Yeah, bro. I mean, I use like tutorials all the time. As the intermediates just go and annoy Timothy. Yeah, usually that happens too, right? Like people just come and annoy you. Ugh. No, but honestly, like you don't have to feel bad about like following a tutorial, right? The way that I use tutorials these days is not to learn like the overall pipeline, but I'm looking for like specific things in that tutorial. So, what is an example? I was looking into geometry nodes for Blender, and I kind of know like the overall structure because it's node based. You have some like overlap in all of it. So what I do is I'll try to work it out myself first. And then if I get stuck or it's not working as I intended to, I'll just look at like a beginner tutorial for like geometry nodes. And then I'll skip to the part where I need it. And I'll look for like a minute and then I'm good to go again. That's how I use tutorials. But it's completely fine to use tutorials at work. 100%. I mean, usually they even have like a massive library of tutorials anyway. Like most, well, companies that I worked for, they have access to Gnomon and all those other kinds of tutorials, right? Oh shit! Cairo gifting a sub. Thanks so much, man. That's awesome. Oh my god, I thought you did. I was like, maybe. Oh. Oh, Cairo. God damn it, man. Oh, that hurts. Oh. No, apparently you can gift subs to like specific people too. Which is a thing that I didn't know about. Oh, it didn't even let me choose a name? What? Because I was talking to Lloyd about this like a couple of weeks ago and he could pick like a specific name. Because yeah, I assume that Cairo was trying to give the sub to Zex because that gives you access to the Discord as well. Gift me one. God damn it. Exactly. Let me have a look through the chat, right? You gotta be honest about that stuff. Exactly. For me, I'm looking on existing art in games like what is that? HOTS? HOTS. I'm thinking. I can't really think about Dark Side of Genesis and trying to recreate the style myself. Hey, it worked. Thanks, Scott. See, we're sharing the gift subs. Oh, Heroes of the Storm. That could be it. Thanks so much for all the support, guys. This is really awesome to see. Just like if people want to join, that there's just like a community behind it. So awesome. Yeah, but just to come back to that question, like when you're trying to replicate the existing style for games, it's always good to try to distill it to its core and try to really nail down what it is that makes that style unique. Like, what is it? Like these two, I'm very unfamiliar with. I haven't played Dark Side of Genesis or like Heroes of the Storm, but like like a long time ago. But yeah, it's just like looking at that, looking at the style and like trying to break it down is just really important. Like, what are the colors that they use? Like how are the proportions for like the characters or the environment pieces, right? Like, yeah, no 90-degree angle, soft bevels, exactly. Just really, you're basically reverse engineering the art direction for those games. That's what you're trying to do. Or like the art Bible. That's a good thing, right? Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's definitely a good thing. Again, it's one of those things where what you're doing at this point is you're trying to distill like the art direction of that game, and then taking those fundamentals and like making your own thing into it. Oh shit! That's awesome, Will. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Oh, look at that. You still owe me money. Yeah, thanks for the call out. We need to sort that after the chat. Oh god, what are you doing, Will? Is this how you're gonna spend your vacation? I appreciate it, man. Apparently we're on a hype train because of that too. So, okay. Yeah, like I do want to go back to like some questions. So if you have any questions about anything, right, feel free to just drop them in the chat. Or like just a discussion point. I think you brought up some interesting points around like portfolio pieces and like how to not chase likes. We talked about that like for quite a while. I think offline too, right, Will? Where I mean, we had so many conversations about this. Like people just chasing likes and like trying to do their best, or like sneaky ways on how people try to get likes. I know that we talked about this example where there was a person on ArtStation that was doing fan art for The Last of Us, but then they put the fan art so small that you couldn't see it, so it almost was like clickbait. Oh my god. Yeah, we had fun talking about that. Don't get me started. Scared to post anything on ArtStation. Don't be Ben. You gotta think about it as like fire and forget. The thing that I usually do, because I do feel that pressure myself, the thing that I usually do is I'll set everything up, I'll post to ArtStation when it's done, and then I just leave the house. It sounds silly, but that's usually what I do. Like I'll press like the I don't know, like publish button, and then I go out for a walk. And I'll take like a long walk just to get rid of that energy. Post and run away immediately. If you don't like it anymore in 3 months, just delete it then. Yeah, exactly. I mean, even in your case, Ben, because I know what you're talking about with your work, you could use the block feature until it's ready to be called finished, right? If you're just happy with it and like ready to move on to the next thing. And then try to not think about it. Or expect anything when you return. Yeah. Well, this is the thing that happens, right? When you post something, you already have like this, I don't know, this number in mind, but that number is never gonna work. It never does. Never. Like, even if you think like 100 likes is gonna be fucking crazy, what if you hit 150? Then you start thinking about like, but 200 isn't crazy anymore, right? Like, why don't I hit like 200? So it's like a constantly moving goalpost that you're never gonna be satisfied with. So it's best just to disconnect from that. Because here's another thing, I think we talked about this before, is that likes don't mean that you're gonna get an industry job. Like, they don't correlate. Like, you get more visibility, but I talked to this to like a couple of students of mine, like recently, where you could really go into like, look, I'm gonna create art to get as most likes as possible. So what you're gonna do is use a lot of contrast, use like really bright colors, and if you want to rely on purely the art, that's what you're gonna do, right? Make something interesting that has like lots of contrast and like really bright colors, because that's what we're seeing with the stylized art that you see on ArtStation these days. That gets like a fuck ton of views, but that's, I mean, it's good for them, right? I'm not trying to dissuade them like that they shouldn't do it. But if that is not in line with what you want to achieve as an artist or what you want to create, then what does it matter? Right? That's the thing you keep thinking about. Like, you can either do the things that you really love to do, and you don't really care about the outcome of that because you're creating it, and then as soon as you send it out into the world, it's theirs. Or you can create something that's purely catered to what people want to see from you. I would like to be known for not wanting an industry job, then don't post on ArtStation. It's probably that simple. If you want no attention at all, just don't do it. Let's have a look here, right? Wait, you don't sit in front of your PC and refresh ArtStation like I do? Oh yeah, I did. I went through those phases, don't get me wrong. I've had phases where I'm just like, I would still do the thing where I would go out for a walk and then come back and like still refresh it. So... I mean, yeah. I mean, I went through those phases too, right? Where it's like... And then all the phases where you look at people posting shit art. Like, I mean literal shit posts, right? Where you have like a smiley or something like that and they get like a massive amount of likes and you're just sitting there like, man, I spent like months working hard on this and I don't even get like 1/10 of the likes. It's like, eh. I think we all have to go through those phases. And then at a certain point you're like, what the fuck am I thinking about this? It doesn't matter. Hey Will, thanks so much for all the support, man. I really appreciate it. And enjoy Tarkov. I need to have a look at the game. Maybe we'll play together this week. Yes, likes are also exponential. Exactly. Because look, if you wanna boil it down, right? Like the thing that I'm doing with just like building a community and helping other people and getting people to follow me through that, right? Because I love sharing. That also increases the amount of likes that I get on my future artwork because there's just more people following me. Like, it's ridiculous when you start to distill it like that, but that's the way that it works. Yeah, exactly. Like, there's like the whole seniority weight system that's attached to it too. Exactly. And that's also, yeah, I mean, you can really build momentum with that too, right? Which is good. But then you also need to always put it in perspective because it can give you like a false sense of, what would you call it? Like being good or like skill level? Like it might blow your ego to talk about that. So yeah. I know I just have lots of friends that will spam like whatever I do. That's good. That is good. This is why likes don't matter in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And the weird thing happens is the less you care about likes, the more you'll get. It's a weird thing that happens. But like people that make things for likes, they usually get less of them. Because you can feel that in art. You can feel when someone put their passion into it and just really was passionate about creating that project and they put like their heart and soul into it. You can feel that. And that's always going to shine through no matter how hard you try to fake that. Yeah, you can get a lot of likes if you make a meme thing. Exactly. But then the thing that I think about with memes, and I think Ryan who recently joined our server is like a really good example for that. Because he's now known for like the sandwich guy, right? He probably doesn't like that. If we're gonna be honest about that. I mean, this is my assumption, right? He probably liked it in the beginning because like people were trying to call him that and like it kind of stuck. But now that he joined our server and like people were like, "Oh, it's a sandwich guy." Like, do you want to be known for like being, well, if we're gonna be really, really honest about that, like a fake cook, right? Does he really love it though? That's what I always wonder. I mean, you might be right though. I don't know the person, right? We never talk personally, so this is just me making like a massive amount of assumptions. So I apologize if it's wrong, Ryan. Yeah, it is. It is, Ben. Exactly. And that is a thing where you get to make the choice, right? Like, what is your brand gonna be? And some people are comfortable with that and other people's aren't. Like, I'm a person that's not comfortable with just having like a, I mean, if we want to call it in Kairo's word, like a shit poster brand. Which is definitely popular, if we think about it. You would like to be known, Ben. Well, what do you want to be known for? Let's have a look. I'm just reading through chat. That's how I do it with anything that gets posted on Beyondextent. Oh, yeah, just liking and like sharing it around. Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, pretty good. That's freaking awesome to see when every time like someone posts that is really active in the industry, that there's such like a force behind it too, of like people sharing it and like commenting on it. That's always amazing to see. I really like that. Being a good modeler and a decent artist. Yeah, just keep it up. I mean, you're definitely doing a good job there. Definitely doing good. Let's have a look. Zex, that is a good question. Normally, you should be able to... It's actually an interesting point. I don't know how you get access to the Discord. Normally, it should be automatic. If you linked up your Discord with your Twitch, it should be automatic. As far as I know. Game art community is very wholesome and open to sharing other people's work. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that's what I love about it. It's just people being excited. People being excited about other people's work. It's like, because yeah, in a community like this, you see the struggles, and you almost like live through the struggles with them, right? Like all the times when you sit in voice chat, like all the times when you give feedback, like you can really tell that people are trying to do their best and they're trying to improve. And then once they drop like a new art piece, it's like you went on that journey with them, right? And that's probably the most interesting thing about being in an art community, or like even running one at this point, right? It's like seeing everyone's individual's journey and like talking to them about it, and being there in the highs and in the lows, which is, that's what it's all about. All right. I think we got some good questions in for today. Yeah, giving feedback is awesome. We have been discussing some future options for that, but I'm not gonna say too much about it. It's just about time at this point. Finding the time. Yeah, talking about feedback last time was really amazing. Just the time just to get together with like all the community builders. Can't find any Discord invite. Have you linked your Discord with Twitch? I don't know if that's even an option. I need to double check that. No, we can invite him, but the whole automation thing would be broken then, and then he won't get like the proper rights and like the proper roles and all that. So it's a hassle. Oh, Patreon as well? Maybe? That's a good question, Cairo. It might be that. Wait, no. If your Discord is linked, it should be there automatically. Weird. Yeah. No, it does work. Yeah, because Bikes got a gift as well, and that's how he got into the server. So yeah, normally it should give you like a Twitch sub for like our server, and then you get access instantly. It might take a bit though. It might take a bit of time. After the stream, I'll talk to Bikes and see how that whole process worked. All right, and talking about that, I'm probably gonna end it here then. We got some good questions today. Had some really good discussions. I love all the feedback and all the discussion points. This was really awesome. And then also all the support from the community. Just like the gifted subs, like all the bits. You guys are freaking amazing. Like, I love this. Especially because the core thing, right, is just getting people involved into like the community. That's always the core sentiment behind all this, and it's freaking awesome. Yeah, going already, Zex. Like, I'm gonna do some more personal work and then have like a mentorship in like an hour or something like that. So I gotta prep for that too. This was awesome, everyone. I wish you all a great Sunday, and I will talk to you in the next one. As Guillaume joins the stream. Oh, I'm sorry, buddy. We're just ramping down. All right, everyone. I wish you a very nice Sunday, and I'll talk to you all later. See ya.
Ah.